Welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life. I'm your host, Hannah Nuss, and each weekday we'll share enthusiasm for what's possible and dive into the stories of Iowans living their dream lives right here in the heartland. Whether you're chasing a big goal or just looking for a little inspiration, we've got you covered. Let's change the world together. This is Living the Dream Iowa Life. Let's go. Heyo, welcome to Living the Dream Iowa Life podcast. I'm your friend, your host, your Hannah. Welcome. It is a great day to be away and out in this world, don't we agree? I know it's challenging, and I totally get that. And we are all one scroll away from realizing that the world is not all sunshine and rainbows. We know. But I do think oftentimes we sort of adopt other people's clouds, right? We're like, oh, life has been too good for too long. I barely know you, but you're going through something traumatic. All of a sudden, I'm going to loop myself into that in a weird way. Right? And I think social media really allows us to kind of dive into those things deeply and allows us to participate in a less than joyful life. Because really, outside of the few things that are happening along our path, along our family's path, and that's not to say that your life isn't riddled with trauma and issues. Okay? Everybody's life is different, but outside of our circle and ourselves, does that have to matter? I don't know. I don't know that it has to matter to the level that it is now, and that feeling of, I don't know. I've been contemplating this a lot, and if anyone wants to have this conversation with me, please, let's grab some coffee and let's conversate, because this has been a thought in my head for a while, these vicious cycles of kind of trauma bonding, and how that often is at the root of a lot of communities, which in some instances, perfect. We love the community can come together and support people in their times of need. However, when that is the only means of bonding, is in trauma, is in drama, is in issues, then are we bonding on truth, or are we creating a society that longs and lives for these traumatic moments? I remember when I was probably in my most unhealthy state. I remember having a phone call with a friend. We had just went to this conference together, and I didn't know her. She was from Texas. We met over the weekend. I didn't know her. And I'm talking to her, and I'm like, oh, I just see. Okay, so this is Hannah Nuss, 2019, June 2019. Okay. And I'm driving to work, my corporate job. I'm pulling up to a stop sign. The grocery store is on the corner. I'm surrounded by this tiny community of people in homes in this small little Iowa reality. And I'm saying to Katie, I can't quite understand it. But what I see in my life is this beautiful, dynamic group of women lifting each other up in their dreams. And I just get to sit there and celebrate all of them. And I don't understand what that is. And I don't understand I don't understand that in this context. As I'm driving to my corporate job, I can't understand what I'm saying. I see myself speaking and writing books, and from where I was sitting right in that moment, I don't know what I'm saying, but that's what I saw. And I said, I don't know what that means, but that's what I feel called to. I feel called towards that vision of my life. I don't have any idea how to get there from this corner of life. But that's where I feel called. That's what I'm going to do. I have no idea what that is. I have no idea how that comes to life, but that's what I'm feeling when I hear this Jason Mraz song. His album had just come out, and he had this really beautiful song that was just like, I want you to have it. Here's to the da, 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 da. I know all the words, but I'm not gonna sing them. I want you to have it. Here's to the good times we're gonna have. Here's to the something, something, ba 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 ba. And anyways, I say that to her, and then I say these words, and I think this is why this is the unhealthiest self. I had no idea how to make that happen. And in my mind and in the life and the world that I was raised in, really the strength of this trauma bond was the only way that I had ever experienced or embraced community outside of marrying my husband, which was so confusing to me in the early stages of our relationship. I did not understand when I went home to this town that he lived in that I could no longer walk down the street and people like I am not anonymous. People know who I am. And like his mom just loved me for no reason at all. His stepmom just loved me. I barely knew them. They were just like, dude, if you're with our Jordy, then you're our people, and we love our people. And I remember just feeling so confused about that. Not that there wasn't love in my home, but I feel like there was restricted access. Some people made the cup, but very few made it. And in their home, it was like more love, more kids, more people. This is so great. You're going to join us. We just love you. And I couldn't understand that. It was so complicated. And I felt like that every time that I came to his hometown, too. People just loved me or knew things about me that I barely even knew about myself. They were telling me legends of my own story that I was unaware of. Whoa, all right, this is cool. And so I couldn't really comprehend this love without trauma, right? The bond was built on love. How confusing. How confusing. Because I had really only seen us pick up people along the way kind of based on trauma, based on common trauma experience. And I didn't like it was really hard for me to comprehend. And so I say these things to her and I say, I pass the grocery store. I'm about 5 blocks away from work. And I say, Katie, I don't understand how to get to this life. And if I'm being honest, I kind of was waiting for a like tragic disease state in order to do this, to finally like bring these things to life. I was waiting for like, I don't know, a stronger story than the one that I have now. Mine isn't strong enough for people to rally around. I can't understand why people would trust me with their dreams. I can't understand that. I can't understand how that would happen without this like trauma bond. I don't understand how we would just love for love. I don't get that. And so I told her that, and then I just felt this like drop in my soul, this understanding that I had just shared this deeply personal, crazy thing to say to someone. I mean, that's unhinged, right? Oh, I'm waiting to do my dreams until I'm near death. You know, because then people will listen to me. And the truth is, after I said that out loud, I realized just how unhealthy I was in adopting the truth of my own story, in accepting where I was at in life and doing the things that I felt called to do, regardless of how that story wrote. And so that really is the question today. What is your truth? What is the truth of where you are right now? Because I think often we're either kind of sad, depressed about where we thought we would be, about the difference of the narrative of whatever it was going to be, or we are thinking about where we should be, what we could be doing, what we should be, this end goal of what it was all going to look like. And I am a proponent of vision boards and setting goals just as a way to sort of broadly cast light on the things of your soul. But I will say this: we have no control over how we get there. Okay? We don't know what the timeline is going to be. We simply ask, I want a beautiful life. I want a beautiful life where my soul carries into everything that I do. I want to hold the people that I love so closely that they almost feel the yellow of me leach into their skin when they're with me. It's joy, it's sunshine, it's wonderfulness. And even in the sacred and scared moments, I want to be able to bring my joy there too. And I want to be helpful and comforting and moving forward with people, because even in sadness and trauma and slow, barren moments, there is joy to be had. There is kind of a comeuppance of the story that is meant to be hatched here. And I love experiencing those moments too. And, you know, I think that is so difficult to manage. The truth of your story, the reality that we have no control over how we get there. I want to be at the end of this journey right now, right? Like, I want to be in full existence. I want to have all the shops. I want to have all the shop built to its biggest capacity, with the commercial kitchen, with the studio, with the shop. I want to have all of that. I want to support all of the entrepreneurs in any way that I possibly can. And now I'm realizing that I don't want to. And that's been a really hard truth to accept right now too, because early on in the beginning, right? Like, I am just joy and love and encouragement and excitement of all of the ideas. If you bring in an idea to my door, I almost guarantee you I am going to be excited about it, because that is just who I am. I love ideas. I love dreams. I love people expanding. I think it is the most joyful, wonderful thing that we can do for ourselves as human beings. And so if you bring an idea through my door, I'm going to be like, yes, do it. And you're going to probably say, oh, are you sure? Did you think about this? Did you think about that? Did you? And I'm like, I thought about, no. I thought about the most wonderful life I could imagine for you right now. And I thought about how important whatever this idea is to you going on that path. I didn't think about all the terrible things that could happen, because I only thought about how wonderful it could be. And I follow that truth. because terrible things will happen just as equally as wonderful things will. And your story still deserves you living out the journey you've been called on. And we can't really reject that journey because most of the time it's just happening. I couldn't stop myself from imagining this life. And everything unfolded exactly how it was supposed to. I remember I wanted to go to this conference. I had been really thinking about what I wanted for my life. I had just turned 30. I didn't know how one dreams again. I just knew that I felt called to something bigger. I couldn't even fathom what that was at that point. I wrote down a bunch of dreams day one of age 30 that were so superficial. And I'm looking at that list and I'm like, well, yeah, I guess these things can excite me. And I kind of knew by about December, my birthday's in August. I knew by about December, this list ain't it. It's not it. I'm not excited about any of these. And if I get to create my own life, then I want to create something more beautiful for myself. And it was at that moment that my friend had invited me to a Rise conference by Rachel Hollis, who was one of the major self-help gurus in the industry in 2018. She invited me to that conference. That was in June. My husband said, yeah, I mean, you can go, but it's kind of expensive. So I said, all right, I'll donate plasma. You're right. This shouldn't impact our lives. I can get extra money for this. I can. So I donate plasma. I get all the money for my ticket for my hotel stay, and I go. And I meet this group of women who share space for these very vulnerable conversations about the fact that I had sort of reined my life in after I didn't dream big enough or after my dream died, right? And they held space for that. And then after that, Katie, who's from Texas, hey, she held even more space for me after, and we really start having conversations about what life was going to look like. And her holding space for that left room for me to freely explore and say these very vulnerable things. And I think because I've had a couple of kind of out of country or state relationships that really shift the tides. But I do think not having that person in your everyday reality eases the tension around owning truths. And so it was easier to say to Katie, hey, I think if I'm going to go on this dream path, no one's going to listen to me because my story has no real trauma. And I think if I would just, grab a disease up real quick, then maybe people would listen to me. Because maybe I'd have something traumatic enough for them to bond to. And she said to me, I have felt the same way. And I realized how many people are holding themselves back because they're waiting for a different start or a better end to the story. It's not going to be undone. It is what it is, and it is beautiful, and it is a part of your becoming. And not everybody's ready for that message, definitely in times of grieving and loss. And, if someone had said that to me after I lost volleyball, I would have been like, You leave me alone. You leave me all the way alone. I'm not ready to own this part of my story, right? So we have seasons that we can adopt to these things. But I do think letting go of the restriction of what is. We know what will be. We know what will be. But we have no ownership over how that will play out. I know that I have this desire for this like uplifting, amazing ecosystem of humans doing really great things. I have not the slightest idea of how we will end up getting there. I don't know. An empire of uplift and excitement and what is enthusiasm. Come on. That's it. I don't know what will be the foundation of that empire. I don't know what will be. I don't. I just know that the life that I dream of, I am really actually living right now. And I think sometimes we put goodness out on this pedestal and we say, okay, once I am here, we will be good. This will be good enough. And I will be able to celebrate and be excited. And I am saying today, what does joy look like today? How would being excited for your life look? How would letting yourself get over what could have been or what would have been? How about letting yourself get over what was supposed to be, what should be, and just being in what is? Here is what is. And I don't understand how or why it's playing out this way. I really don't. But I am so grateful that it is. Because whatever power is above me saying, this is the path. This is the path. You are on this path. You have asked me for a beautiful, lovely life. And I'm going to fast track you because I want you to experience that goodness. I need you to know it now. And I need you to trust it. And I think this is the ultimate kind of journey of faith. And this is why I want to have this coffee conversation, right? Because this journey of faith is kind of a funny one because it's almost letting go of lack and truly trusting. And if we're letting go of lack, then we really have nothing to pray and ask for. Right? Because we're accepting and acknowledging that this is the greatest path we could be on. You know, and right after my accident, if I would have said that to myself then, like, hey, Hannah, this is the greatest path you could be on. I would have looked you not directly in the eye, probably behind some sunglasses, and wearily brought my eyes into focus while you were still standing there blurry, and I would have said, don't say stuff like that to me right now. Okay? I'll be ready for that message when I am better, but I am not ready for it now. And so it's okay if we're not in a moment of acceptance and joy and loveliness. That's fine. But I do think eventually we have to let ourselves get there because the story is written as it was meant to. I don't want that. I don't want this near death of myself, death of my company. I don't want that to define who I am. I don't want that to be the tragedy of this story and the downward spiral of how all of this worked. I don't want that. don't want that. No, thank you. And I do think part of it is this like acceptance of both roads and faith that whichever road you feel led to go down is the right road for you. And so I do think we have these traumatic life moments, traumatic, dramatic, crazy turn of events, right? We have these moments and we say, "Ooh, I really wasn't expecting that." And it forces us to choose a path. And usually it's forcing us down the right path because we don't dang well know or do the things that we are supposed to do. The things that we know are goodness, we will still run from them. But our truth is goodness and light and love and wonderful feelings. And sometimes I think we come in and we're like, no, it shouldn't be that good. My life couldn't be that wonderful. No. Bad idea. Bad. Run away. Because we're not accepting and faithfully allowing our life to unroll the way that it's supposed to. So when these moments come in, we usually get two very distinct paths. One, to cower, to go back to what we know, to give up, to give in, to follow depression, to follow anxiety, to just let this toxic life cycle of this couldn't be my life because it never was my life. It couldn't be this good. I don't trust goodness. Right? Retreat. Or this new path. And I think the new path is a little complicated because it doesn't look bright and shiny. It doesn't. It looks like a lot of growth and a lot of challenge and a lot of kind of mountainous terrain on the way to this better life. But that really is what we want. We want to be challenged. We want to be moved in new directions that are wonderful and magical. We want that. We want love and light and freedom and ease and beauty and magic and enthusiasm and power. We want all of these things. And it is our birthright. It is our birthright. Right? We are born surrounded by this beautiful rainbow of possibility, protected and nurtured. And then the world kind of tells us something different. And then it's our job to keep coming back to that rainbow, beautiful existence before the world told us where we were supposed to go, before the world said, this is how it's supposed to look. And if it doesn't look this exact way, then you did not do it right. Or this is what success looks like in this very specific thing. And if you did not do that, then you did not do it right. No, we got it wrong when we let someone else decide what our life was supposed to look like. We are manifesting the most beautiful life that we can for ourselves. And yes, sometimes that means overcoming some terrible things. But regardless, we are manifesting the most beautiful life we can imagine for ourselves. And so it's really more of a matter of imagining and owning. Imagine the best life. Own that it is already yours. And then let it play out how it's supposed to. The ultimate step of faith, the ultimate step of acceptance. And, faith for me, I think usually is something that happens outside of self, is something that we don't kind of include ourselves in. it's an outside conversation with someone else. And I think, that is one of the things that I am kind of challenging the writing of right now in my own head. Like, this is the coffee shop conversation. Is unhealthy religion trauma-based and power stealing, or like power giving? We're getting rid of our own power. We're accepting that there is a higher power and I am not in control, which is fine and healthy. You are not in control, but you are powerful. And so it's a very delicate line to walk. And I would love to deep dive into this with someone to like keep having this conversation. But I do think at the end of the day, our truest existence and the beauty of this life form that we have taken is accepting right where we're at. And we don't have to love it, but we do have to realize that if we have called this most beautiful life into our existence, if we have allowed ourselves to imagine that, then whatever track we are on, whether it was or wasn't planned that way, is part of our most beautiful existence. And it is a beautiful, faith-filled journey of creation. As always, you're smart, you're strong, you're beautiful. What are you going to do? Change the world.